What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Wake and Jake College Football Show. Today's episode is going to be, it was going to be an ACC free episode, but I could already hear all the complaints. How can you call this a college football show that covers all the Power Four teams, yet you don't talk about the ACC? You know what? You're right. Um, I should talk about the ACC, even if they have absolutely no good games this week. So there will be, spoiler alert, one ACC game that we do touch on today. Other than that, pretty much an ACC free episode, just because not not a lot of great. I shouldn't say that because you never know. You can always be surprised. Just not a lot of great ACC games. When we get to the Power Four Moneyline Parlay later on, it was tough. It was tough finding a team that I wanted to add into that from the ACC. Um, but yeah, you deserve to at least get one ACC team or one ACC game, so I will give you that, at least one. But yeah, typical episode. We'll touch on some news and some notes, go through my Power Four freshman rankings, quarterback rankings, um, preview games, go through my favorite bets. I am off of suspension, but I am on parole. Um, another bad week, and I may get suspended again. And it may be even a longer suspension, and there may be more restrictions on what I'm allowed to give out. We'll see. Committee will decide. We just got to have a good week. Um, little preview for what to expect next week. So after this weekend, we will be officially like halfway through the season. Most, if not all, will have played 6 games. And as you know, it is a 12-game regular season. So at the midway point, and I was quoted on saying this earlier this summer. I don't think that a top 25 poll should ever be put out until, at least October. So starting next week, I'm going to start putting out my top 25 poll. Um, because I think it's only fair that if I say that it shouldn't be put out till October, then I shouldn't be putting one out till October. I know I put one out preseason. I feel like I had to. Everybody does it, but I haven't done it since. So, top 25 poll will be coming out starting next week. And then I'm also going to just we're going to just do kind of a recap of where, see where I had every Power Four conference team. We're not going to do it all next week. We'll kind of space that out over the next couple of weeks. Where I had them preseason, where I have them now, where I've been completely wrong midway through the season. Probably going to be a lot of that, not a lot of me being right, because that's just how it goes. It's a lot of speculation. It's all how it always is. But yeah, that's what to expect moving forward. That's what to expect from tonight's episode. Let's have a good one, and let's have a great Wake and Bake Sesh. First and foremost, let's get into some news from the week. Uh, really, really only one major thing that's worth talking about, but I do have some second bit of news that is just a little too funny not to share. But for starters, the NCAA is making it official that transfer portal window is now going to be one time, and it's going to be January 2nd to January 16th. Thank God, because portal was an absolute disaster. It needed to be fixed. Everybody knew it. Uh, I'm glad they're doing this. There's very few changes in college football that have been made within the last, I guess we could go decade, that I've been 100% behind, or even 75% of the way behind. This one I'm 110% behind. It was a disaster, like I said. Everybody knew it. It had to be fixed. So I'm glad they did that. And I'll kind of get into some of the details here. I like how they're going about this, honestly. Um, Now, the two teams that do play for the national title, they will have an extra 5-day window after, I think it's like from the 20th to the 26th or something like that, that they will be able to, uh, you know, get their names in the portal, that sort of thing, which, standards, what happened last year as well. But one of the bigger changes, too, is not only that players only have the one transfer window and it's in January. Grad transfers, they also have to wait till January 2nd, which wasn't always the case. Grad transfers a lot of times could enter in a little early, that sort of thing. They now have to go just like everybody else. Also, after a coaching change has been made, uh, it once Once a coaching change is made 5 days later, then players will get a 15-day window to enter the portal. Currently, as it stands, the second a coach is fired or a change is made, players can enter the portal immediately, and they can do it for within the next 30 days of that change. Now they have a 5 day window, and I mean, sorry, they have a 15-day window, but they have to wait 5 days before they can even do it. So I guess that one doesn't bother me too much. I guess 30 days was a little excessive. So I kind of like that they did shorten that one, make them wait 5 days, so it's not such a brash, reaction to a firing. Give them a second to settle in, process the news. Maybe they do want to stick around for this coach, that sort of thing. So don't hate the changes there. Love the changes overall. It had to happen, so I'm glad the NCAA did that. Um, the other bit of news that I wanted to get into, uh, North Carolina, they were supposed to be doing a docu-series coming out on Hulu. It's no longer happening, which sucks. Not shocked, I guess, but kind of sucks because North Carolina's not having a great season. A little bit of a dumpster fire. I think a lot of people thought it would be a dumpster fire. Uh, so to have a docu series on that was going to be, how are they going to spin it? How is it going to look? I was kind of looking forward to it. So it's too bad that's not happening anymore, but it's also not surprising. All right, Power Four freshman quarterback rankings. We got two new faces this week. A couple teams made a change. Some it was a purposeful change. Others it's availability. But we got Mason. I'm gonna do my best here. Mason Heinchel from Pitt, and then we had Khalil Wilkins, West Virginia. Um, we'll get in. I mean, we did touch on them with the recap. I don't have them too high in the rankings as of yet. Coming in at number one, and this is a new number one, Julian Sand. I can't, I cannot keep ignoring what he's done since that Texas game. So I have to put him at one. It's just we can't ignore it anymore. Malik Washington, I feel bad putting him at two because he was at one. I feel like I'm punishing him for his receivers because his numbers would be significantly better. Maryland could be 5-0 if his receivers could just figure out how to catch the ball. So I feel like I'm punishing him for something that's not his fault. Unfortunately, Julian Sand has just been phenomenal, so I don't feel that bad. We got CJ Carr coming in at three. You could argue he should be number one or number two. Fine. It's all right. I'll listen to that argument. I don't necessarily disagree with you. Honestly, these top three probably are interchangeable at this point. But CJ Carr coming in at three. I got Drake Lindsay at four. I mean, he has just been steady Eddie. Against Ohio State, I mean, he didn't have the greatest numbers, but you're going up against the defending national champions. They're a great team. He's played really good. Got to keep him at or put him at four. I got Bear Bachmeyer jumping up to five. I think this one's a little questionable. He's had a great season, but he's also played absolutely nobody. He's had one of the easiest schedules as a true freshman to start his career. Um, we have not really seen him tested yet. So once we do, I mean, that's really going to dictate if he can get past five. I'm going to tell you right now, this is the highest he probably will go, unless he just starts blowing people out of the water when he actually faces competition. Coming in at six, Bryce Underwood. You could argue he should be at five. That's fine. I'll listen to it. Again, he's been pretty steady Eddie. He hasn't been terrible. I feel like I'm almost punishing him similar to Malik Washington because his weapons are just not great. But Bryce Underwood at six. I got Jaren Kiave Sangapulatele. This one, I mean, he was at number one for the longest time. And I was just keeping him up there because of how he started the season. But as the season has gone on, he has struggled a little bit. So he is slowly dropping. Honestly, though, I don't see him getting any further than seven, if I'm going to be completely honest. Rounding out the bottom four, I've got Mason Heinchel coming in at eight. Now, he had a phenomenal game against Boston College. At the same time, it was one start. Can't put him up too high because of that. Now, has he done better than any of these next three combined? 100%. In just one game, he's been better than these next three combined. But right now, this is where he's at because we've only seen it for one game. Coming in at nine, Cutter Boley. I mean, these bottom three, I guess you could argue in any particular order. I think number 11, which is not going to surprise anybody, should be number 11. I don't really think there's much argument for him to be any higher than 11. But I got Cutter Boley at 9. I got Khalil Wilkins at 10, which one game. So I feel bad punishing him, but it was a really bad one game. So I got him coming in at 10. And then Zane Flores. I mean, he has just done absolutely nothing all year. I don't think he's thrown a touchdown yet. Thrown a few interceptions, though. I think he has a rushing touchdown. Good for him. He has done absolutely nothing for an absolutely pitiful team. Coming in, rounds out the bottom, comes in at 11. Uh, we got a lot of, I mean, I thought these freshman rankings for the quarterbacks was going to be relatively easy. And for the most part, it's not hard, but like the bottom four are pretty interchangeable. The top three are pretty interchangeable, but there's a lot of talent this year in the freshman class, redshirt and true. Um, I didn't think it would be. I thought it would be pretty standard who was going to be in what spot, and that they would just consistently be in those spots week in and week out, and I wouldn't have to change much. This is constantly revolving because some guys aren't playing anybody. Some guys have bad talent around them and could be elevated by better talent. We got a lot of good quarterbacks in the freshman class. All right, game previews. We'll start with Friday's games. Um, there's only one game that I'm even going to touch on Friday. That is Rutgers at Washington. Rutgers is 3-2. Washington's 4-1. Washington is a 10.5 point favorite at home. Last week we saw Washington travel all the way to the East Coast and come from behind to beat Maryland. Now we get to see Rutgers do the travel all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast and take on Washington. Now, against a bunch of nobodies, Washington's been pretty dominant. Um, in their two Big Ten games, though, a lot less dominant. Got beat up by Ohio State at home, where they had a 22-game win streak going into that game. And then they were down 24. It was 20-0 in the going into the fourth quarter, and then came from behind to win. Scored in their final four competitive drives, counting the last one. So it's been a really not great start to the Big Ten season. Now, I think the most concerning part of these first two games in the Big Ten, or just I guess in general too, um, they've allowed 9 sacks. Washington has to both Ohio State and Maryland combined. Now, Maryland's been pretty good at getting after the quarterback so far this year. Ohio State's Ohio State. They always have great defensive linemen, so I guess I mean it's a concern, but you're also going up against some of the top defensive so far this season defensive lines. It's a concern. Now, will it be a concern against Rutgers? Honestly, no. Not. I don't think it's gonna be too much of a concern. That defense really has not been good so far in two Big Ten games. 31 and 38 points allowed. Surprisingly, the offense has been the strength with Ethan Kaliakmanis. Didn't really expect to say those words this season. Now they start out games pretty hot, and we might actually get into this a little later. Spoiler alert for bets coming up. Rutgers gets out to a hot start. They've done it in both Big Ten games. They get out to and score 21 points in the first half, and then 7 in the second. They peter out pretty quick. Teams figure out how to stop them pretty quick. Figure out the game plan, shut it down. I fully expect Washington to win this game. I think Rutgers is going to come out hot yet again. It might be close in that first half. Rutgers does nothing in the second half. Washington with a relatively easy win, I think. Moving into Saturday's games, we will start with the noon slot. I'm just gonna say this right off the bat. I already kind of mentioned it with the ACC. I don't love this weekend slate of games. Now, just because I said that, it's probably gonna be like the greatest weekend of all time. But even like because there's quite a few ranked unranked matchups now. AP poll rankings, so you can argue that they suck, and they do. But let's be honest, all the teams that are ranked, if they weren't ranked in the top 25, they would be in the top 30 to 35. Let's just tell it how it is. So whatever. But I feel like a lot of these ranked matchups are just not. I'm probably going to regret saying this. I don't think they're going to be very close. Um, so, after me saying that, we'll start with number one Ohio State, who is 5-0, heading to Illinois, who's number 17 in the nation. They are 5-1. Illinois is a 14.5 point dog at home. That tells me that me and Vegas have the same thoughts. This is not going to be a close game. You're going to hear me say this more than once in this episode. In the Big Ten, Ohio State and Oregon. And then there is a drop off, and then it's everybody else. It's Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, you could argue maybe USC, maybe Washington, maybe Iowa, some years Wisconsin, are in that next group. And then I guess I should say Minnesota can sometimes be in that group too, within the last few years. But there is a drop off from the top to that next tier. I didn't even mention Penn State. Right now, Penn State is not in that group. Normally, they would be. Sometimes they even are, you could argue, in that top group with Oregon and Ohio State. Um, Penn State is not in that group right now. Now, Ohio State has not given me any reason to think they're going to lose this game. And because of that gap between the top of the Big Ten and then the next tier, I just I just don't think Illinois has the dogs to win this game. We already saw them get absolutely destroyed by Indiana. It's hard for me to erase that from my memory. I really don't think Illinois has a shot. That's all I really have to say on this game. Maybe Ohio State comes out sluggish and a little bored on the road. Maybe it's a low scoring, close first half. But after that, I mean, Ohio State's going to come out in that second half, if that does happen in the first half, and just shut down Illinois' offense. Won't be able to stop them on defense. It's just going to be a bloodbath. Ohio State wins easily. We got number 8 Alabama. This is okay. This is one ranked game that could be pretty good. Number 8 Alabama 4-1 at number 14 Mizzou 5-0. Mizzou is only a 3.5 point dog at home right now. They've been absolutely dominant this year. Now, that was a concern of mine. You listened to me at all last year or listened to any previews into this season. I'm kind of a Mizzou hater. Eli Drinkowitz is just, he bothers me. He's annoying. Um, and when I looked at what they brought in the transfer portal, and when I looked at the schedule, I thought, oof, there's a chance Mizzou has a chance to be really good this year. And so far, that's the case. Now, relatively easy schedule. South Carolina did not look to be as difficult as they were preseason. Kansas, good team, not great team. This is going to be Mizzou's biggest test so far. Definitely not going to be Alabama's, but this is going to be Mizzou's biggest test. So far, they have scored 40 plus in all but one game this year. Run game has been absolutely unstoppable. Mod Hardy, you can argue, is the best pickup in the transfer portal this season by any team for any position. Remember when we thought Jaden Ott was going to be good for Oklahoma? Yes, it was Ahmad Hardy we should have been talking about. Nation's leading rusher, second in touchdowns, and he's 10th in yards per carry. And in the top 10 for yards per carry, he's the only one with over 100 carries. Just absolutely dominant. Now, I already kind of mentioned this, when I did the recap from the Alabama and Vandy game. At some point, if Bama keeps winning, we are just going to look back at that Florida State loss and just write it off as a fluke. First game of the season. You never know what you're getting with the other team. You can kind of write off first games for a lot of teams when they struggle. Why can't we write it off for Alabama as just a fluke loss? I'm almost at that point of being willing to do that. Now, in their 4 games since that game, Wisconsin is the only team that was not able to run the ball successfully against Alabama. Florida State, that's all they did was run the ball. Georgia ran it for over 200 yards, and Vanderbilt was coming from behind, so they didn't really run the ball a lot. But when they did, they were getting 7.6 yards a carry. I mean, Wisconsin's just a broken team right now. They're the only team, and I'm not counting ULM. I'm only talking about Power Four teams. Wisconsin's the only Power Four team that could not run it against Alabama. But again, they can't run it against anybody. So they've yet to show that they can shut down a run game. And I just went over Ahmad Hardy's stats. That could be problematic for Alabama. On the flip side, Mizzou's defense, very good. Top 20 in points allowed, 10th in pass yards allowed, first in rush yards allowed, second in total yards allowed. Now, top two offenses that they have faced, Kansas and South Carolina. Now, I'm not going to disparage Kansas. Jalen Daniels is great. Weapons around him, maybe not super great, but at the same time, it's still a good offense. South Carolina's offense is absolutely broken. Offensive line sucks. Wide receivers are inconsistent. Quarterback play, you could argue, is also inconsistent. Run game is absolutely non-existent. So I would hope that Mizzou would play good against them. So this is going to be Mizzou's defense's biggest test so far this year. Like I said, it's Mizzou's biggest test as a whole for the offense, but then also for that defense. Um, I'm struggling with who to pick in this one because Alabama, before last week, had been one-dimensional this season. Run game was non-existent. Now Jam Miller was out. He came back against Georgia. Still didn't really get the run game going against Georgia, but that's fine. It's Georgia. I can forgive that. And then last week, Jam Miller went off for 130 plus, I believe. Um, it was a one-time thing. We've only seen them do it successfully once. If they can get the run game going in the way Ty Simpson is playing, it's hard to bet against Alabama. And as much as I want to pick Alabama, because I am kind of a Mizzou hater, even though I've been glazing Mizzou this whole entire preview, it's also funny when Alabama loses. So I am torn on this one. I don't have a pick. I'm going to be honest with you. I may have one by the time the game starts on Saturday, but as of right now, I don't have a pick for this one. All right, I promised you one ACC game. And no, I wasn't going to be mean and do Wake Forest and Oregon State, although I thought about it because I thought it would be funny. Instead, Pitt at Florida State. Florida State is somehow still ranked at number 25. They are 10.5 point favorites at home. Both teams are 3-2. Pitt has one ACC win. Florida State has none. And you could argue Pitt is a team that should be 5-0. If you look at both of their losses, just a lot of self-inflicted wounds. If you look at those two losses, they had 6 turnovers in those two games. They were converting 23.5%, so nearly 24% of their third and fourth down conversions. That's terrible. And honestly, especially against West Virginia, a lot of stupid penalties, just dumb penalties that never should be happening. Now, in their 3 wins, just 2 turnovers, 2 compared to 6 in those other 2 games. Now, granted, I know they played Duquesne, Central Michigan, and then who they beat? Boston College, who's also not a good team. I understand that. My point being, though, when you turn the ball over and you only convert 24% of your third and fourth downs, it's impossible to win and have a bunch of stupid penalties. Because again, their wins, 2 total turnovers, and they're converting over half their third and fourth downs. Pitt is a team that's good enough that if they aren't shooting themselves in the foot, they're a top half of the ACC team, but they're just undisciplined and make too many mistakes. Now, we saw it last week. Mason Heinchel, I still don't know. The new guy came in, had a great game. Good for him. Nice to see. He played mistake-free football, and that's all it took to win the game. Got to play mistake-free football, and that's all Pitt's done in those wins, and they've absolutely not done that in their losses. That's the key for them to even try and win this game. Now, I just got done talking about it with Alabama, where at some point, if they keep winning, we're going to write off that loss as just a fluke. Are we going to do that for Florida State too? Because if they keep playing the way they've been playing the last 2 games and they keep losing, at some point we're going to write off that win as an absolute fluke too. It's hard to call it a fluke, but at this rate, it might end up being one. Um, I don't trust Pitt yet. We have seen them against a Power 4 team, I should say. Seen them put together one clean game, and it was last game with Mason Heinchel, who nobody had any film on. Well, now there's film on him. I think the shine's going to come off a little bit in this next game against Florida State. I have to see it twice before I can believe it. I can see that they can consistently put together clean games, games where they're not shooting themselves in the foot. I do think Florida State bounces back and wins this game just because I don't trust Pitt yet. I just don't. A couple other noon games. I'm not really going to get into these because honestly, not that interested in them. These are going to be games that I'll just flip on here and there just to check in on. UCLA at Michigan State. Michigan State is an 8.5 point favorite at home. Michigan State's just kind of a weird, kind of disappointing team. UCLA, they're on fire right now after beating Penn State. Let's see if they can keep that going. Um, we got UCF at Cincinnati. Cincinnati should be ranked. It's a crime that they are not. They are 4-1 and 10.5 point favorites at home. I don't expect much from that game. Afternoon slot. Now here's another top 10 matchup. I guess Illinois and Ohio State's not a top 10 matchup, but here's a top 10 matchup, a ranked versus ranked matchup. I'm just not. I just don't think it's going to be a good game. We got undefeated Indiana, ranked number 7, heading to Oregon to take on number 3 Oregon, who is also undefeated. Oregon is a 7.5 point favorite at home. I said you're going to hear this a couple times in this episode. Top of the Big Ten, you got Ohio State, you got Oregon. There's a drop off after that. That next tier, Indiana's in it, Illinois is in it, Michigan's in it. The usual, some of the usual suspects. I guess Indiana and Illinois are not usual. Um, there's that. There's a step down, and I just have a hard time thinking they're going to win this game. Now, is Indiana better this year than I thought they would be going into the year? Sure. That is true. I have them as an 8-4, 9-3 team, and they very well could be a 11-1, 10-2 team. Is it possible that Indiana, with a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense, can march right into Oregon and take on a team that also has a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense and win the game? Sure, I guess. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. I just have this nagging feeling that Oregon wins this one by 2+ scores. Um, I'm not basing that off of any stat or any trend or anything like that. It's a nagging feeling I have. Like I said, there is a drop off between Ohio State and Oregon, and then the next tier. We got number 6 Oklahoma at Texas. We got the Oklahoma's number 6. Texas is unranked. Committee did that right. This is going to be at the Texas State Fair, so technically, really, it's kind of a Texas home game, but it's not. Red River Shootout. John Mateer's pushing to play. Do I think he's going to? I have no idea. Nobody has any idea. Um, I feel like it's just a lot of show, a lot of talk. It's not actually going to happen. Then again, the dude did play 3 quarters with a broken bone. Whether it was I don't remember if it was a thumb or his hand, whatever it was, he played 3 quarters with it. It was originally rumored that he was going to be out for 3 weeks. So far, we're in week 2 of that. So technically, if he was going to miss 3 weeks, he would be back next week. So he's really only coming back a week early based on our initial reports. So I guess it's not the craziest thing if he does play. And if he does play, and he is in fact healthy and not just trying to play and clearly is not healthy, if he is back and he's healthy, I think Oklahoma wins this game. If it's Michael Hawkins, I am less confident. Um, I also think that whoever plays quarterback, this could end up being an ugly game. We got Oklahoma, who's got a top 5 defense. We've already seen Arch Manning struggle against defenses that are worse than Oklahoma's. Not all his fault. Offensive line hasn't been great. Run game has just not been great. But Arch Manning also has not been great. Offensive line last week got absolutely shredded by Florida. And they're now going up against an Oklahoma team that is tied for first in sacks. Not great. Not a great recipe for Arch Manning to finally surprise us and play a good game. Not a great sign for a Texas offense that is reeling, for a Texas team that is reeling. Um, this could very well end up being a Texas team that is 3-3 halfway through the season. Again, I don't I don't have a winner in this game. I can't pick a side because I don't know who's playing quarterback for Oklahoma. When I do find that out, then I will have a decision because I've already kind of made that clear. John Mateer plays. I think Oklahoma wins. If not, I'm less confident and wouldn't be sure. So my pick is not in because I don't know who the quarterback is. Um, Number 22, Iowa State 5-1 at Colorado, who is 2-4. Colorado's only a 2.5 point underdog at home, which I found a little surprising. I just assumed Colorado has done nothing to impress me this year. Iowa State has done a little to impress me. Now they got absolutely destroyed by Cincinnati last week. Yes, they fought back and made it a game. Uh, Absolutely destroyed. Now Cincinnati is a much better team than I thought they would be this year. Um, Iowa State, though, at the same time, is a better team than I thought they would be this year. Colorado's kind of what I expected. Maybe they're a little worse, but I did not have high hopes for Colorado this year. Um, I think Iowa State could win this one quite easily. I just do not trust Colorado. I think Iowa State has a good team. They've got a good quarterback. They got a good defense. Didn't look like a good defense last week. They are without their top two corners. I don't know that Caden Saltz or Julian Lewis, that other dude who's playing. Um, I don't think they're good enough to beat Iowa State. Nebraska 4-1 at Maryland 4-1. Maryland is a 6.5 point dog at home. Maryland almost made me believe last week, and I'm fighting that feeling again of trying not to believe because I'm just such a non-believer in Nebraska that I want to believe in Maryland, even though I probably shouldn't believe in Maryland and should be believing in Nebraska. Um, could could Maryland win this game? Sure, because Maryland has one of well, I don't remember exactly where they're ranked. Uh, Maryland's good at getting after the quarterback so far this season. Now, the teams that they have gone up against have just been bad at stopping people from getting after the quarterback or have just been much inferior opponents. So there is that side to it. And Nebraska kind of falls in that category. They have not been able to keep Dylan Raiola upright, much like Washington struggled, much like Wisconsin has struggled. I think Maryland could feast a little bit on defense here. Now, offensively, Malik Washington's been great. His receivers, when they can catch the ball, have been good. But that's the problem is they're bad at catching the ball, and you could argue it cost Maryland to win last week. So I am torn on this one because I want to believe in Maryland. I so badly do. Kings of August and September, the losers of October and November. They lost last week after being up 20-0 going into the fourth quarter. I think I'm going to pick Maryland. I'm backing Maryland. I just, until I can see that Nebraska can be a good team in the Big Ten after not being one for the last 10 years, I just can't believe in them, and I'm gonna put that belief behind Maryland this week. TCU 4-1 at Kansas State 2-4. The fact that Kansas State is only a 1.5 point underdog at home is shocking because I figured TCU would at least be getting three. Um, but what do I know? I don't make the odds. TCU, I mentioned it, kicking themselves the other day. They must be kicking themselves for not being 5-0 for giving away that game to Arizona State. Um, Kansas State, what an absolute disappointment this year. Offensively, eh. Defensively, just too many explosive plays. Just play good, play good, play good. Let up a big play. It's just brutal to watch. I don't have high hopes for Kansas State in this one. They have been a very disappointing team so far this year, and I have been relatively impressed with TCU. I think TCU can win this one quite easily. Arkansas at Tennessee. Tennessee's number 12 in the nation. They are 4-1. Arkansas is 2-3. Tennessee is a 12.5 point favorite at home. This is the revenge game from last year, where Tennessee went to Arkansas and Nico Yamaliava just choked that one away. I mean, there was plenty that could have gone wrong, but or that they could have done better. But that everybody remembers that last play when he just scrambled around and then ran out of bounds and game was over. Just dumb, 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 dumb. So this is a revenge game for Tennessee. Now, if I were a Tennessee fan, I would be a little nervous. Arkansas just fired Sam Pittman, and when a team fires a coach, we see this all the time. They do have a little bit of a jump that they get, and a lot of times that jump start that they get is enough to win a game. We just saw it with UCLA. Now it doesn't always happen the game after the coach is fired. Sometimes it happens 2 games later. But it does come, and you just don't really know when it's gonna come. So if I were a Tennessee fan, I would be a little nervous because Arkansas just fired Sam Pittman. They had a bye week. They're amped up. They're ready to go. They had a week to get healthy, get right, and game plan. I know Tennessee did too, but they didn't just fire their head coach. Now, both of these teams' defenses have been relatively disappointing. Did I have high hopes for Arkansas's defense? Absolutely not. Did I have high hopes for Tennessee's defense? Absolutely, I did. So far, they though are 103rd in points allowed. Arkansas is 110th, and they both rank in the bottom 25 in pass defense. Um, where they differ, I guess, on defense is Tennessee is a lot better at stopping the run than Arkansas. That being said, not that Tennessee is great. They do get, I believe, defensive 1 or 2 defensive tackles back or defensive linemen back this week, so maybe that will help a little bit. Um, that Tennessee defense, as porous as they've been at allowing just explosive plays and this and that, and yes, I know their top 2 corners were out against Georgia, and um, are they? I don't even know if they're all back yet. But regardless, the defense has been porous. But the one bright spot is they have been getting after the quarterback like no other. Tied for first in sacks, tied for ninth in tackles for loss. Um, Arkansas's offense isn't terrible, and they're not terrible at getting after the quarterback either, or even protecting the quarterback. But I do think Tennessee has the advantage on the defensive line, especially with getting some guys back. I mean, this is going to be a fun game. I really do think that because you've got 2 top 20 offenses going against 2 bottom 3rd defenses. Do I think Tennessee's defense is going to get better as the year goes on as they start to get a little healthier? Yes, I do. Do I think that they are better than they've stats will show? I do believe that. Um, I expect a good amount of points to be scored in this side, or at least on one side of this game. I think Tennessee comes away with the win. I don't think that jump start comes from Arkansas yet. I think that will come down the road. Give it a game, maybe 2, but it's not going to happen this weekend. All right, Saturday night. You know what? We'll start with Minnesota. We got Purdue 2-3 heading to Minnesota, who's 3-2. Minnesota's a 9.5 point favorite at home. Love to see that. Um, Now, this is a much better Purdue team than we've seen last year or even the year before that. Offense has shown life this season. They've been a little explosive. Defense, on the other hand, has a ways to go. Defense has not been good. If you thought Arkansas's defense is bad, Purdue's is basically the exact same. Running game for Minnesota has been the weak spot of this offense. You could argue it's offensive line. Whatever. Run game has been bad. I think this could be a get right game for the run game. Like I said, Purdue's defense is not very good, so I think this is, and this is also a game that we got Darius Taylor back, or should be back, playing a full game as long as it's not a blowout. Honestly, I don't see any way that Minnesota doesn't score a lot of points on Purdue's defense. I think, like I said, it's a get right game for the run game. Drake Lindsey has looked good against defenses that are much better than Purdue's. The real question in this game, I guess, is how well does Purdue's offense do against Minnesota? They have turned the ball over, I believe it's 7 times in the last 3 games that they've played, and that's not great. So if they're turning the ball over, this is going to be a low scoring game for them. If they don't turn the ball over, I expect Purdue to score a few points. And that being said, Minnesota's only forced 1 turnover in the last 3 games, so I mean they haven't been great at taking the ball away. So who knows if they're even going to be able to. So if Purdue can protect the ball, I do expect them to be able to move the ball at least a little bit and score some points. If Minnesota can get some turnovers, though, they win this game big. We got Florida at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is number 5. They are undefeated, 7.5 point favorites at home. Florida is 2-3. Um, can Florida keep that magic from last week of beating Texas? No, I don't think so. Texas is a broken team. A&M is not. And A&M is far from broken. At least not yet. Who knows? They could still have a late season collapse, but like they did last year. But right now, they are not a broken team. My one concern for A&M though is Marcel Reed. After that Notre Dame game, I mean, yes, he threw for a lot of yards. Yes, it was all on his wide receivers. I was not impressed with him. A lot of bad throws. Completed only like 40% of his passes and threw it like 40 times. It was just brutal to watch. Those receivers, though, are not brutal to watch. I need to see Marcel Reed be better because since that Notre Dame game, he has just been Now, I'll cut him some slack. He's only had to be because that run game has been going and has been running great. And then they've just been winning. They haven't needed him to do anything crazy. All he has to do is get it into his receivers' hands. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. They do all the rest. Three-headed rushing attack, or if you want to include him, he hasn't had. They haven't had to rely on his arm yet since that Notre Dame game. They're gonna have to coming up sooner rather than and probably sooner rather than later because they are going up against a Florida defense that is allowing less than 100 yards a game on the ground and less than 200 through the air. This Florida defense is no joke. Now the offense, completely different story. Other than against Texas, they've been absolutely terrible. But this defense is no joke. Um, they may need Marcel Reed to make some throws this weekend, and so far, I have not been impressed. And yes, I have a future on Texas A&M to make the college football playoffs, and yes, I do feel pretty confident on that. This game, though, like I said, I will feel more confident in that future if I can see a great game from Marcel Reed, and so far, have not seen that. Do I think Florida can pull off the upset 2 weeks in a row? No, I really don't. I don't. We haven't seen it yet, so I don't believe it yet that the offense can put together 2 consecutive weeks of just being great. Um, but I am saying that Texas A&M offense might struggle in this one. We got Kansas 4-2 at Texas Tech 5-0. Texas Tech's a 14.5 point favorite at home. Now, before the season, I said Kansas could go 5-1, 6-0 to start the season. I definitely underestimated Cincinnati this year. I do still think though that Kansas is a pretty good team, even at 4-2 is not a bad record, but I thought they would be 5-1, 6-0. That being said, though, Texas Tech absolute wagon this year so far. Their opponents have scored no more than 14 points in a game, and they have not scored less than 34 in a game so far. Now, I'm not sold on Texas Tech yet as a Big 12 as the Big 12 winner to make the playoffs, to make a run. Um, I guess I want to see just one more good win before I'm convinced they are for real. But I do think they are the superior team to Kansas, and I do think they will come away with the win. We got number 10 Georgia 4-1 at Auburn, who is 3-2. No SEC wins so far, and they're only 3.5 point dogs at home. Is this going to be a repeat of what we saw with Florida and Texas? Texas flies or heads over to the swamp, gets beat by Florida. We got Georgia now heading down to Auburn. Big rivalry game. Is it going to be a repeat? I don't believe so. Georgia is better than Texas, and I mean, I guess Auburn you could argue is better than Florida, at least record-wise they are. Although Florida does have one more SEC win than Auburn. Um, but Georgia is significantly, in my opinion, better than what we've seen from Texas so far this year. I think Georgia wins this game. Auburn offense has been struggling. Um, they've allowed 14 sacks in the last 2 games. Georgia hasn't been great at getting after the quarterback, but that might turn around this weekend. Uh, Maybe Auburn keeps it close in the first half. don't see a way that this offense can do, at least from what we've seen in recent weeks. They don't give me any sort of confidence that they can do anything. Georgia wins this one. We got number 15 Michigan 4-1 at USC, also 4-1. USC is a 2.5 point favorite at home. I might be biased, um, and I've been on this soapbox, and I know I'm not alone. But USC is just not a Big Ten team, and you see it. You saw it last year. I guess it's only been 1 year, but you saw it last year that when they started getting into the meat of the Big Ten schedule, they play top half teams in the Big Ten. They struggle, and so far, I guess I just haven't been impressed with USC. In three Big Ten games so far, they have scored 30 plus in each game. That's great. That's what I would expect. It's a Lincoln Riley offense. Defensively, this is not going to be a shocker. They've struggled. Allowed 17 to Purdue, or 17 points against Purdue, which is not a lot of points, but Purdue was moving the ball quite a bit. Now, Purdue's been a little turnover prone, so yes, they turned the ball over quite a few times deep in USC's territory, but they were able to move the ball and convert third and fourth downs. Michigan State, whose offense has just been. Michigan State's such a weird team. I just don't fully understand them. Allowed them to score 31, and then they allowed Illinois the week after they got absolutely dominated by Indiana to go off for 500 total yards on offense, convert basically all of their third and fourth downs, and score 34 points and win the game. I'm not sold on USC being good this year. Pass defense has been an issue. Run game has been the strength, I guess. And we've been over this with Michigan's offense. They are great at running the ball. They struggle to throw the ball. That's not always on the quarterback. I think it's mostly on the receivers. Uh, I mean, they had success last week throwing against Wisconsin, but Wisconsin hasn't been able to stop anybody from throwing the ball at any point. I guess USC hasn't either. So maybe Bryce Underwood has a good game this week throwing the ball. We did see the receivers start to step up a little bit last week again against Wisconsin. So take that as you will. USC is going to have success on offense, even against a good Michigan defense. I mean, they're always going to have success on offense, basically, whoever they play. And I shouldn't say everybody, but until I can see their defense consistently stop Power 4 or Big Ten teams, I just can't get behind them. South Carolina 3-2 at number 11 LSU, who is 4-1 and 8.5 point favorites at home. I mean, we'll breeze through this because it's the same old story. South Carolina's offense is absolutely broken, run game non-existent, offensive line is terrible, quarterback play and wide receiver play has been up and down, inconsistent. LSU's defense is absolutely not broken. Now the offense is a different story. I mean, they're terrible at running the ball. Granted, they run the ball a lot less than most teams, but whenever they do try to run the ball, it's bad. It's not good at all. Um, Offense, we expected to just be so explosive this year, and they just have not. I'm trying to think. I don't know that they've scored more than like 20 points in a game. I think maybe it was 26 or 27. I take that back. They did have one game where they went off against a nobody. I did forget about that. South Carolina's defense may be able to stop this LSU offense a few times just because they haven't been that impressive. In the end, South Carolina's offense is going to struggle against this LSU defense. I don't see this as too much of a struggle for LSU. Last game we will touch on number 21 Arizona State at Utah. Arizona State's 4-1, Utah's 4-1, and Utah is a 5.5 point favorite at home. Honestly, this one could end up being the game of the day, and which sucks. It doesn't start until like 10:30 Eastern time. But this could end up being one of the games of the day. Arizona State has the second best odds to win the Big 12. Utah's number 4. Obviously, Texas Tech is the first. I think Cincinnati's the third. If you look at Utah's one loss on paper, it looks terrible. But if you actually watch the game, completely different story. You had a team that was in Utah that was only down 10-3 going into that fourth quarter. They were absolutely dominating Texas Tech's offense until the quarterback went out with injury. Freshman comes in. They didn't have an answer for him. He balls out in the fourth quarter. They lose big. Again, Score looks much worse than that game actually was going into that fourth quarter. Arizona State's only loss is on the road at Mississippi State, which is not a terrible loss at all. Since then, they have a big win over Texas State. Had to kick a game-winning field goal over Baylor to win that one, and then came from behind down 17-0 against TCU to win 27-24. Typical Arizona State have a great run game, but this year the passing attack's a little bit more of a struggle than it was last year. Um, a few weeks ago, I mentioned that they need to find a second option besides Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson is their leading receiver. Shocker. He's got 39 receptions, 483 yards, 7 touchdowns. The next two leading receivers combined have 36 receptions to his 39, 267 total yards to his 483, and 1 touchdown to his 7. It is Jordan Tyson or bust. Oh, and I should also say, those other two receivers, they're not even wide receivers. It is the running back, Raleek Brown, and tight end, Shimon Mateer. Yes, one's a tight end, so we'll give him that, but running back is one of your top two, top three receivers, not ideal. And to have both of them combined have less receptions, less yardage, and less touchdowns than just your top guy. I mean, it's a little concerning. They need a number two, a solid number two, if they want their passing attack to take a step forward, and I just don't see that happening. Defensively, they've been great at stopping the run. They've struggled against the pass, but I will say they did hold Josh Hoover to a season low in yards, and he didn't throw any touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And against Sawyer Robinson, I mean, it wasn't a season low in yardage because that came against Furman, surprisingly. Uh, it was down there, though. It was not his best game. So they've played better over the last couple games. Utah's defense, I mean, they have dominated 4 3/4 of the 5 games they've played in so far. Offense has dominated in 4 of the 5 games. Now, granted, those wins are against UCLA, Cal Poly, Wyoming, and West Virginia. Not exactly a murderer's row. So they have absolutely no good wins. This game is being played at Utah at night. I'm not buying into the recent stat that I've seen going around that Utah's 0-5 at home against the Big 12 in their last 5 or all time, or I don't, whatever. Since they've joined the Big 12 or whatever it is. I'm not buying into that. This is not going to be an easy game for Arizona State. I'm not saying it's going to be easy for Utah either, but it's not easy for Arizona State. They've been on the verge of losing the last couple of games they played in. I think those close games catch up to Arizona State, and Utah comes away with the win. All right. Finishing up with my favorite picks for this weekend. Now, I already mentioned it earlier. Spoken with the committee. I'm on probation, which means I am on thin ice right now. And it has not been good, as we all know. So, let's win this weekend, because if we don't have a winning week this week, committee is going to meet again and decide on next moves. All right, we're going to start off. We're going to change it up a little bit. Power 4 moneyline parlay. Give me Georgia from the SEC. Give me Michigan from the Big 10. Give me TCU from the Big 12. And here's, well, okay. Give me Wake Forest from the ACC. That comes out to plus 954. ACC favorites this week, and all these favorites I do expect to win, so and they don't add anything to the parlay. You got Clemson, who at the time when I wrote this down was minus 650. Georgia Tech was minus 630. Florida State was minus 400 or 390. SMU was minus 1100. Wake Forest was minus 146 against Oregon State. I really didn't have any choices. I was kind of like I was forced to pick Wake Forest. Do I want to? Not necessarily. I just don't trust Pitt to win. I don't think Clemson is going to lose to, I think it's Boston College. I don't remember who Georgia Tech's playing. SMU is playing Syracuse, I believe. I just don't trust any of those teams to pull off the upset, so it's Wake Forest. Okay. we need some winners. We're going to go with Georgia, -3.5. Give me Oregon, -7.5. Both of those, by the way, are -110. Give me, this one's going to be a little bit of a weird one. We don't do this type of bet often. Ohio State third quarter -3.5 at -104. I think this is a game that, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, Illinois, Ohio State could be close at halftime. Ohio State comes out in that second half and just dominates. Illinois doesn't score till garbage time. So, Ohio State -3.5, third quarter. After that, got a lot of games I want to pick. I'm going to go with Minnesota over 30.5 points at -118. And for my final one, can't do money lines because those are already in the parlay. We're going to go, and I understand if you don't want to do this bet just because you may not like the odds of it. And it's kind of a gross bet, but when you know who they're playing, it makes sense. Iowa over 19.5 points at -128. They are playing Wisconsin. Wisconsin's defense has just been absolutely terrible. I mean, Iowa's got to score 20, right? Anyways, they got to be winners because otherwise the committee's meeting again. I feel pretty confident in these. Thank y'all for joining me. I hope you enjoy the football. Happy betting. And I will be back next week it will be next week to recap week 7.